Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
You can put it on the board. Yes. He couldn't go all the way. 95
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Cell, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by uppercutchops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all natural, dry-aged USDA prime Angus and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all, those massive and gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at uppercutchops.com. That's uppercutchops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for uppercutchops.com. All right, and big welcome in to everybody listening in on all of our television and radio affiliates from coast to coast. Everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild, Charter, and independent cable affiliates, and Hotel TV in select markets. Thank you, as well as everybody on radio and everybody streaming and so forth. Hey, listen, by the way, folks, from the very top here, we want to make sure that we get out a message from our friends over at Vacation Buddies. They want to give you a couple of nights in Las Vegas or Orlando, Florida, or in Branson, Missouri. If you can answer a simple trivia question, which of these three is the tallest structure in Las Vegas? Is it A, the Eiffel Tower at the Paris Hotel and Casino, B, the Fontainebleau Hotel and Casino, or C, the tower, the Stratosphere Tower at the Strat? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you a couple of nights right here in Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or in Branson, Missouri, if you know the answer to that very simple trivia question. If you know the answer, 888-576-5777. Call now. All right, a little college football for your soul here. And think about this, folks. We've had a shakeup in the rankings yet again. It just seems like week after week there's something weird going on, and we kind of like it. But first, well, better yet, let's look at these rankings first. I was going to go to the standings, but let's go to the rankings first. And there's been a little bit of a shakeup, as you very well may be aware of. And we're going to start at the bottom with those receiving votes. At USC getting 97 votes, but not ranked in the top 25. University of Utah getting 40. Tulane getting 37. University of Houston getting 34. The Cougars are. The Naval Academy getting 28 votes, but they're still getting some votes to be in the top 25. Aztecs of San Diego State getting 7 votes. James Madison Dukes getting 6. Boise State getting 4. TCU getting a couple of votes. And the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers also got a vote as well. So as we look at what's happening in the top 25, we say, well, shoot, do we believe that the top 25, as we see it, as we know it, is the top 25 in our brains? And that's always a question, because there are people that seem to believe one thing, they believe something else. They say, well, you know, the top 25 is this, that, and the other. Maybe that is the case. I'm not really sure if I agree with the top 25 as it stands, but number 25 is Michigan. They were unranked previously. Now they're currently ranked. They're 5-2. And next week, they've got a date at Ann Arbor. In fact, we'll get to those matchups with another piece. I'm just going to run over these rankings right now. Arizona State at 5-2 is now ranked number 24. Illinois 5-2, also in the Big overall. They are, of course, in the Big Ten, as you know. And they were unranked. Now they're ranked number 23. Texas, University of Texas Longhorns, they dropped one slot to number 22 from number 21. The Cincinnati Bearcats jump up 3 slots from 24 to number 21. LSU suffering an awful defeat, actually a very good win by Vanderbilt in Nashville. And they took care of LSU rather easily. Brian Kelly is just not the guy, in my opinion, at LSU. Previously unranked Louisville is now number 19 out of the ACC. Number 18, South Florida, out of the American Athletic Conference, jumped from 19 to number 18. Tennessee dropped 6 slots to number 17, and they are 5-2 overall. And their losses have been pretty good losses in the grand scheme of things. They lost in the last second at home, and they lost against Alabama on the road. I mean, a couple of pretty tough losses. They should have beat Georgia on a field goal. They just didn't at home. So I think number 17 is maybe a little bit of a harsh reality for them. However, there are other teams with the same record that are ranked above them. We'll get to them in a second. Virginia jumps up 2 slots to number 16 at 6-1. The Tigers of Missouri go up 1 slot to number 15 at 6-1 as well. Texas Tech tumbles 7 spots to number 14. Oklahoma, with the logo that looks like a paperclip, they are up to 6-1 now. They jump up 1 from 14 to 13. Notre Dame goes up 1 from 13 to number 12. Of course, they're independent, so they don't have to play in tough conferences. Nope. Brigham Young, the lowest ranked undefeated team at 7-0, jump up 4 slots to number 11 with that win over Utah. Vanderbilt jumps up 7 with that win, that beatdown, I'm going to say, at home against LSU. They're up to number 10. Vanderbilt cracked the top 10. Pretty exciting. Miami drops 7 slots to number 9 with their loss. They're 5-1 now. And Ole Miss drops 3 slots with their very tough loss that they had. But they had a very good game. It just happens that sometimes you play a good game and you don't win. But this game was a blowout earlier, but they made it a game. Georgia Tech, undefeated at 7-0. They are number 7. They jump up 5 slots from 12 to number 7. Oregon jumps up 2 slots to number 6. Georgia from number 9 to number 5. They are now in the top 5 at 6-1. Alabama, who just seems to keep winning, they jump up 2 to number 4. Texas A&M, undefeated out of the SEC, from 4 to number 3. Indiana goes from number 3 to number 2. And Ohio State ranks as the top team right now in the country. How about Indiana, the highest ranking in college football that they've ever been? And boy, those guys, I got to tell you, it's awfully hard for me to root for Indiana, but I'm rooting for them because I went to a rival school. Yet they're both from the Indiana school system, being from Purdue and Indiana, are both run by the state of Indiana. So, IU, I'm rooting for you. However, those guys from Columbus, I never root for them. But Indiana actually got 6 first-place votes. And when we look at the rankings of these teams, we say, all right, how does that translate into what's happening in the standings? Because the standings are a little bit different. We're going to start over in the American Athletic Conference. We're going to go alphabetical on these because we can, as found with the NCAA. So Navy occupies the top spot. They are 4-0 in the conference, 6-0 overall. That's right, 6-0. And the Naval Academy somehow is down the trough, if you will. And they sit above South Florida, who's in second place at 3-0 in the conference, just like Tulane. And both of those teams are 6-1. And both of those teams on the road are 2-1. So these are 2 pretty good road teams. Memphis at 2-1 in the conference, 6-1 overall. And Memphis being 3-1 on the road. This is a pretty good Memphis squad. They did lose their last game, but they are pretty good. And we'll go down to the North Texas Mean Green as being the last overall 6-1 in that conference, because there are a bunch of 2-1s, 2-3s, and whatnot. But the Mean Green of North Texas, they're also 6-1, and they're undefeated on the road. Now that's kind of a big deal, folks. When you look at these teams, how they play on the road, that tells you a lot about their, number one, their ability to play under pressure in a hostile environment, but they also bring their top performances to the road venue. And so they're not shaken, is what I'm trying to say. At the end of the day, these guys are out there doing it, but they're doing it at the same level at home as they are on the road. And that's why teams like North Texas, they could actually be, and Memphis and Tulane and South Florida and Navy, they could all be in the conversation when it comes to that college football playoff. So I'm thinking that you may see a team from the AAC in the playoff, and obviously right now it's going to be Navy as undefeated. Now, how cool would that be to see one of the service academies in the college football playoff? I got to tell you, I'd love to see that, especially under this administration. That would only make a lot of sense to me. And look, and this is because they earned it, not because they were given the opportunity. They're playing really good ball. Now, unlike Army, Navy actually has a balanced attack of running and throwing. All right, back here in a few minutes on The Circus. More college football. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. Make sure you check them out, folks. All right, and a big welcome back to everybody listening in on our radio affiliates. And that would be big thanks to our friends over in Atlanta. Thanks for waking up with us and driving to work with us, listening in on 99.1 FM WDJY. Everybody driving home in Auburn, Alabama, and Columbus, Georgia, Montgomery, Alabama, all points in between. Thanks for driving home with us, listening in on WAUD, home of the Atlanta Braves, up and down the Midwest, out to the West Coast, those driving between Las Vegas and sunny Southern California, listening in on Highway Country Radio 101.5 FM and 107.3 FM, home of the Vegas Golden Knights, the Raiders, and, of course, the Sports Circus. Thanks for joining us there at the 7 o'clock hour. Everybody else up and down the West Coast, up to Anchorage, down to CBS Sports 1500 KHKA over in Honolulu, CBS Sports 1500, and that is home of the Yankees, 49ers, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. And, of course, welcome in everybody on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild Charter, and independent cable affiliates in select markets, Hotel TV where applicable. And, of course, all those streaming on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, Stitcher, Deezer, you name it, we're there. You can't get away from us. And Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. By the way, folks, if you're just tuning in at the top of the show, there was an announcement to all the listeners for a chance to pick up a couple of nights in Las Vegas, a couple of nights in Orlando, Florida, or a couple of nights in Branson, Missouri. If you know the answer to the very simple trivia question, which was, I'll repeat it in case you're just tuning in, which is the tallest structure in Las Vegas? Is it A, the Eiffel Tower at the Paris Hotel and Casino, B, the Fontainebleau Hotel and Casino, or C, the Stratosphere Tower at the Strat? If you know the number, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. And by the way, folks, this is through Vacation Buddies. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you a couple of nights in Vegas, Orlando, or Branson. If you know the answer, 888-576-5777. All right. So, going to get back to these standings here, because when you look at the standings, you look at the rankings, you kind of scratch your head a little bit, say, well, maybe this team is more deserving of that team and whatnot. I think Georgia Tech belongs a little bit higher, shifting over to the ACC. They're 7-0 overall, 4-0 in conference, 3-0 on the road, 4-0 at home, etc. You know the story. But Virginia now sits at 6-1 and obviously undefeated in conference, just like SMU. Those are your three top teams in the ACC that are undefeated. And Virginia 6-1, Georgia Tech at 7-0. SMU 5-2, Pitt 5-2, Duke 4-3, but 3-1 in the conference. So they sit one game back of the lead in the ACC. But when we look at the newcomers to the ACC, when I'm talking about Cal, Stanford, and SMU, I mean, SMU is playing pretty good ball this year. I think Cal is at 5-2 overall. They're much improved. Stanford is 3-4 overall, 2-2 in the conference, which is good. It's weird to see Clemson in the middle of the pack at 2-3 in the conference and 3-4 overall. Boy, there's just something strange about that. Same thing with Vatech. Vatech at 1-2, 2-5 overall. The Fighting Bill Belichick's at 2-4 overall at Carolina. who knows, maybe he'll get fired. Florida State being a very good Florida State team, but oh, by the way, they're 0-4 in the ACC, but they've done well against the SEC. Imagine that. And Boston College in the tank at 0-4 and 1-6 overall. So there's a real head scratcher going on over in the ACC, but a couple of these teams are better than they're ranked. And I'm curious to find out what happens in the long run with these. I mean, look, Miami is 5-1 overall. They're 1-1. They've lost their last game. That was it. And it was a home game, so that one hurt a little bit. But Miami should be ranked a little bit higher than where they're at right now. Now, moving over to the Big 12. The Big 12 is loaded with a bunch of pretty darn good teams, with Brigham Young being undefeated at the top of the Big 12. And how about Cincinnati in second place in the Big 12? So now we're starting to see who the real contenders are over there. Now we're 7 games into this rodeo, and Cincinnati's 6-1 overall, and they've won both games they've played on the road. And their only loss was a non-conference loss. So that's pretty darn good. Cincinnati should be certainly ranked higher than where they're at. Arizona State, 3-1 in the conference, 5-2 overall, but they're 1-2 on the road. Their 2 losses came on the road, so that really hurts them. Meanwhile, Texas Tech, a very good Texas Tech team, they had 1 bad loss. That was the last game, and it was a road game, but they're 6-1 overall. Texas Tech is only 1 game out of first place, just like the Houston Cougars. They're in the same situation as Texas Tech. But then you start going down the list, and now some of these other squads, you say, well, yeah, they're pretty good. Kansas is pretty good. Utah's pretty good. K-State's pretty good. Baylor's pretty good. And why is it that some of these teams are unranked? I don't know. I mean, you look at their overall record, you say, well, they've got maybe a couple of losses, but it doesn't tell the whole story. Now, Oklahoma State in the bottom at 0-4 and 1-6 overall, that tells the story. But West Virginia, although they're 0-4 in conference and 2-5 overall, they're actually a pretty good squad. Deion's team is in the toilet right now, and I don't know what's going to happen there. Central Florida, they are playing above 500 ball, but again, you've got your standouts in BYU, Cincinnati, and I'm going to say Texas Tech in that group. Maybe TCU, but there's some pretty good teams in there. Now, when you compare them to the Big Ten, the Big Ten is playing really well across the board for the most part. With IU, that's right, Indiana is the number 1 team in the Big Ten right now, but they're number 2 in the rankings. Somehow, Ohio State has the top slot, where Indiana's actually had better wins, in my opinion. I'm not really sure how that even happens, but they should be the number 1 ranked team. Oregon with 1 loss, and it was a home loss. And that was a home loss to who? To Indiana. That's right. So this is a pretty darn good squad, and somehow Oregon's sitting where they're at with 1 loss. They probably should be a little bit higher than where they're at. Northwestern is 5-2 overall, just like USC. USC is 5-2. They just lost to Notre Dame. But USC is a quality club. They'll be somewhere in the bowl picture. Same thing with Iowa. They're 5-2 as well. Michigan's 5-2. Minnesota's 5-2. Illinois 5-2. Nebraska 5-2. Washington 5-2. A lot of good football played in the Big Ten. And so even the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers are 3-4. How about Penn State at 0-4 in conference and 3-4 overall? That's nuts. And you really, those were, we're talking about a top 2, top 3 team earlier in the season, and where they finished last year. That's why they had the firing of their coach. But even Maryland's playing above 500 ball at 4-3. So look, the Big Ten is loaded with good teams. Now over in Conference USA, you've got really 3 teams in there that are really, I think, worthy of a potential bowl bid. Jacksonville State, just by default, overall they're 4-3, but they're 3-0 in conference. I think the best team in this conference is probably Western Kentucky, and also Louisiana Tech. Year in, year out, they're really good. I think those 2 squads, Kennesaw State's playing well, but I think Western Kentucky is probably the class in that division, followed by Louisiana Tech. And I'd like to throw Liberty in there, but it's not the same Liberty as they were before. So we'll just kind of leave it with those guys. Sam Houston, you're in the toilet at 0-7, right where you belong over the Independents. We already know the Independents, they don't play anybody, and that's Notre Dame and UConn. Those 2 teams don't play a conference, so somehow they get a pass when it comes to this bowl game or that bowl game or this eligibility. Over in the MAC, the Mid-American Conference, it's the Bulls of Buffalo. Even with that 4-3 record, believe it or not, 4-3 is the best overall record in the Mid-American Conference. Buffalo, Miami, and Western Michigan, Central Michigan, Ohio Bobcats, and the Toledo Rockets are all 4-3. Now, the Rockets have not won a game on the road, nor have the Bobcats of Ohio. And for that matter, nor has Ball State. They have not won, but Ball State sits in fourth place at 2-1. But you'd probably have to argue that the Buffalo Bulls, and I would probably argue Central Michigan and Toledo, are probably the best three teams in there. I mean, you could throw Miami in there, but I wouldn't. I'm not so quick to throw Miami in there as one of the tops, and I think they are the Red Hawks, if I'm not mistaken. Or is that... that's right. It is the Miami of Ohio Red Hawks. So nonetheless, when you look at this, the Mid-American Conference is very unappealing as far as the big names go, but they do play solid football over there. Over in the Mountain West, which will be essentially disassembled coming up real quick, Boise State leads the pack at 3-0 in conference ahead of San Diego State 2-1. Hawaii at 3-1. Vegas is actually sitting in fourth place, arguably the best team in the Mountain West right now at 6-1. And so they right now are probably the class where they lost their last game. They're 3-1 on the road. They're playing pretty good ball over there. I'll give it to them. But I also believe that San Diego State will be there in the end too, because that's a very good squad. The Aztecs are playing really good ball. Nevada brings up the rear at 0-3, 1-6 overall with Air Force Academy 2-5, Colorado State 2-5. New Mexico's playing 4-3, but they're 1-2 in conference. They're not very good in the conference. Wyoming, you never know what you're getting with those guys. And a good defensive squad in Utah State. They sit right behind Fresno, and that is essentially the middle of the pack. Back here with the Pac-12, which is really the Pac-2, in just a few minutes on the circus. Lots more to come.
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. That's 800-814-8628.
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives.
Treatment helped me get my life back. I was so addicted, the only person I could focus on was myself and what I needed. I hit rock bottom and lost everything. Through treatment, I was able to overcome those demons and focus on my family again.
I used until I overdosed and almost died. That was the end of the road for me. After seeking treatment, I now have hope. I learned skills that help me deal with life on life's terms.
800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. That's 800-426-4994.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Investors, keep listening to learn how to get your free gold report. A currency crisis is upon us. The U.S. dollar has been the world's reserve currency for over 50 years, but that is changing. It's time to protect your retirement. Decades of reckless borrowing and spending have critically weakened the dollar. The U.S. has become the world's biggest debtor with over $35 trillion in debt. Plus, the dollar's become weaponized. Countries are dumping it. Investors who wait until it's too late could lose big. There is one safe haven: gold. Diversify your portfolio with a physical asset they can't take away. Call the Reagan Gold Group right now and ask for your free gold guide. Here's our number:
800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. That's 800-876-7041.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Hey bud, what's your problem?
Excellent.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests or prior guests, recorded shows, which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, YouTube, Stitcher, Deezer, you name it, we're there. You can't get away from us. Also, make sure you check out the partners page. Lots of great partners over there. And one of those is our favorite, Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. That's Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. If you can't make it over there for some great food, check them out online at alsbeef.com. That's alsbeef.com. You can read all about the creation of the Italian beef sandwich. They created it 117 years ago, and they opened their first restaurant in 1938 and are still doing it. And boy, is it good. Folks, if you've never had it, boy, you're in for a real treat. Check them out again at alsbeef.com. All right, welcome back to everybody. TV, radio, you know who you are. And we left off talking about college football and some standings, and we just covered a whole bunch of other divisions. And, of course, the Pac-12 is now the Pac-2, with Washington State and Oregon State, a couple of teams that are 0-0, if you will, in conference. There's only two teams there. Anyway, Washington State is 3-4, 2-1 at home, 1-3 on the road. They lost their last couple of games. Oregon State, 0-4 in conference, obviously, 1-7 overall. They played 8 games, and now they've won a game. And they did win at home, but they're 0-3 on the road, and they are on a 1-game winning streak. But that's basically it as far as those guys go. How about over in the SEC, a real conference? It is Texas A&M that leads the SEC at 7-0, and Alabama is tied in conference, of course, at 4-0 versus Texas A&M 4-0. Those are two top teams in the SEC. Alabama 6-1, 2-1 on the road, but of course they won their last 6 games. They're playing really good ball right now. Georgia, same 6-1 overall, and they also are 4-1 at home. Georgia had a home loss where Alabama had a road loss. That's really the difference between these two teams. Ole Miss is one road loss out of this whole picture. They're 3-1. They sit 1 game behind A&M and Alabama, and they're a half a game behind Georgia for the lead in the SEC. Now, Texas sits at 2-1. They're a couple of games off the pace, or a game and a half off the pace nonetheless. And they have a couple of road losses, which is hurting them. Missouri, a very good 6-1 team overall. Oklahoma, 6-1 overall. Vanderbilt, 6-1 overall. And their only loss was a road loss, and that was a tough loss at Alabama. But when you look at the balance of the SEC, I mean, they're playing really good ball. Really good ball. They, right now, are the best conference on paper as far as the wins and losses go overall. And even Auburn is 3-4. They're over in the conference, but they're still 3-4. They're 2-2 at home, 1-2 on the road. They have lost the last 4 games, which is not good. But Auburn really needs to pick it up, and we'll see if War Eagle can get something done in the next week. And Kentucky brings up the rear at 0-4 in conference, just like Auburn, and they're 2-4 overall. Kentucky, I expect a heck of a lot more than that. Now, as we look at the old Sun Belt Conference, why are we looking at the Sun Belt? Because there's a couple of good squads in here. One of those, and they're really over in the East, and it's James Madison, the James Madison Dukes. This is a very good squad. They're 6-1 overall, 4-0 in conference. Their only loss was a tough road loss. Coastal Carolina sits a half a game behind them. We'll call it 1 game behind them at 3-1. And Coastal has not played so well on the road. Even the Thundering Herd of Marshall sits a game and a half behind James Madison. But they can play at home. They just can't play on the road. Same thing with Appalachian State. Old Dominion, not a good road team as well, along with Georgia Southern, Georgia State. Over in the west of the Sun Belt, Southern Miss and the Men of Troy are both 3-0, 5-2 overall. A couple of decent squads in there, but I think the winner of this conference is going to come from the SBC East, or the Sun Belt Eastern Conference. Now, with all that said, I want to look at some of these matchups here. Now, we get the matchups for Saturday, October 25, 9 a.m. on Fox. It's going to be UCLA and Indiana. Now, that should be one heck of a game. Now, that game will be played at Memorial Stadium in Bloomington. Of course, the weather outlook should be somewhere in the low 50s, I'm guessing. And as I see it, look, I don't want to cover the line just yet on these. Maybe I will. But the line, I think I'll go slow through these. According to one of the venues, now I'm going to try to compare these with actually the official line. I have to search for these, each one individually. Listen, folks, this is live. Anything could happen. So the real line in the Indiana-UCLA game, it opened up at 23.5. It's up to 25.5 across the board, meaning Indiana looks like a lock, and the money is going on Indiana to just pull away. But most important out of this, if you listen to a show we did a couple of days ago, we talked about how the betting line worked. It was a game, or it's a World Series betting show. So that was a couple of days ago. But the World Series betting show, I talked at length about the opening line and everything after the opening line. It was essentially as the betting public moves the line with their bets, right? So it's basically them, but the real line is the true line that was set at the outset. So if you are an Indiana bettor, now you have to lay 2 extra points because all the money has been going on Indiana. Everybody thought they'd cover the 23.5 at start. Now it's up to 25.5. I mean, that is a big, big number, folks. Can Indiana at home take it to UCLA, who has played pretty darn good ball? You know, that's the big question here. What's going to happen with Indiana as a big favorite? I don't know. I mean, I think they will win. I don't know if they're going to win by 25.5. I mean, that's a huge number, folks. Let's think about that. What does it take? You're talking 4 touchdowns, right? There's a heavy dose of reality. 4 touchdowns against a team that's done what? That's played really well against good teams. So is Indiana that kind of a team? Have they crossed that plateau? Is Mendoza that kind of a quarterback where they're going to cover a 4 touchdown spread against a team that did what? That's right, they beat Penn State, well, like other teams. But Indiana is also playing a team, that UCLA, that is not scared to play on the road against big squads. So this is why I ask it. So yeah, it's a home game for them. Good news for them. Will UCLA be intimidated? Not for a second. So we'll see which way that one goes. The next one is a 9 a.m. game, and that is, again, Saturday. Syracuse travels to Georgia Tech. Now, you want to talk about Syracuse being giant killers. Syracuse is that squad that says, we don't give a damn who you are, where you're from, where you're playing. We're just going to go in there. We're going to play our best game. Georgia Tech opened up at minus 18.5 in this game. They're down to 17.5 right now across the board. I got a feeling that line's going to close somewhere around, it should be probably about 16.5 is my best guess. But anyway, if you can get Syracuse above the 2 scores, which is 2 touchdowns with the 2-point conversions at 16, then I think it's a safe bet. Georgia Tech doesn't seem to score a ton of points, whereas Syracuse can go in and score a lot of points on the road. They're good enough to do that. So I'm liking Syracuse's chance to keep the game close, but I don't necessarily believe that they're going to win the game. Georgia Tech is a team that's on a really big mission right now, and they're playing well. I just don't know if good old Bobby Dodd Stadium is going to intimidate Syracuse, because those guys can play and they are giant killers. Next one, 9 a.m. on ABC, as Ole Miss travels to play Oklahoma. Ole Miss and Oklahoma. I wonder how many points they're going to score in that game. I mean, the over and under has to be enormous in this game. The line opened up at minus 2.5, Oklahoma, and it's already up to 5.5. So we'll just call it 5.5 right now. I mean, if I'm betting on Ole Miss, I'm going to wait to the very end till that line hits 6.5 to 7, and then I'm going to go ahead and bet on Ole Miss. They're going to bounce back nicely from their bad loss that they took at home last week. That's going to be one hell of a game. But boy, I don't suspect there'll be a lot of defense played. They may score 100 points in that game. It's one of those kind of games. How about the Bobcats of Ohio and Eastern Michigan? Maybe we'll get to that one in a second. Yeah, let's come back to that one. Let's go real quick here with Virginia traveling to Chapel Hill to play the Fighting Belichicks. Now, Virginia, a very good 6-1 team, 3-0 in conference, playing a very bad Carolina team. And you're not really sure what you're going to get out of that Virginia squad. They open up at minus 10. It's up to 10.5 across the board. Something tells me that Carolina will probably cover the 10.5. As long as that line stays above 10, it seems to be a reasonable pick. Back here in a few minutes with more to come here on the Sports Circus. We're going to stick with college football. Don't go anywhere. Less more to come.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. That's 800-298-3173.
Owning great property is almost impossible these days. At least, that's what people keep saying. They don't know about National Premier Properties. Do you have $350 or a credit card? You can own a great piece of property in a resort community. National Premier Properties has over 51 years of experience helping people just like you purchase amazing properties across the U.S. and in Mexico, Canada, the Bahamas. It takes less than 5 minutes to turn your dream into reality. Visit nationalpremierproperties.com and make it happen now.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure you check out the store at thesportscircus.com. The store at thesportscircus.com. There's a tab right across the top when you look at the homepage. You'll see it says store and about and partners and whatnot, but the store tab's right in the middle. Lots of great American-made products, hats, hoodies, T-shirts, pants, coats, socks, beanie caps, mouse pads, travel mugs, coffee mugs, pillows, and all kinds of great stuff, all with the Sports Circus clever logo on them. And of course, a shameless plug for the circus. Hey, let's face it, and holidays are coming up. So check out the sportscircus.com's store for some of your great holiday needs. All right, welcome back to everybody on TV and radio and streaming and whatnot. And let's finish up with this college football here. Actually, we're going to spend the balance of the time talking about some of these games here and maybe some of the betting. How about South Florida traveling to Memphis, 9 a.m. on the Deuce? That's going to be a very interesting game over in Memphis. Memphis needs to bounce back in this one. And when you look at the odds, you say, well, is this really what we expected from the odds makers? So as I see it, I ask myself, well, which Memphis team is going to show up? Is it the Memphis team that we know, or is it the one that laid an egg in the previous week? Memphis opens up -3. They're up to 5.5. We'll call it 5.5. I think Memphis wins this one going away in it's going to probably be a tight game for most of it, but I think Memphis is going to outlast South Florida, and they're going to probably get a late touchdown or a late field goal to cover that spread. Now, Alabama travels to South Carolina, and that is going to be a 12:30 ABC game on Saturday, 6-1 versus 3-4. That game is going to be, of course, in in South Carolina. And so as we look at the matchup, is South Carolina really that big of a punching bag at this point? I guess that would probably be your first question. But the line opens up at Alabama -7.5. Now they're all the way up to 12.5 at MGM, 12 at Caesars, 12.5 at Hard Rock. So let's just go with 12.5. MGM's got them there, so let's just leave it there. And Alabama, for some reason, I mean, they play good ball on the road, but I don't know what it is. South Carolina has something about them. When they play at home, they turn into giant killers. And so I'm inclined to take South Carolina with the 12.5. I mean, let's face it, South Carolina is not a horrible team. I mean, they're trying to fight back to 500, but they're at a very tough SEC as well. But when you ask yourself, again, which South Carolina team is going to show up, I don't know. How about 12:30 p.m. on ESPN. And that's going to be Vanderbilt hosting Missouri. So you've got a very good defense in Missouri traveling to a pretty darn good Vanderbilt offensive team. In fact, our friend, one of the friends of the Sports Circus, their nephew is the offensive line coach for Vanderbilt, for the Commodores. And Vanderbilt, they're not really surprising many people because people know that they're good. They open up -1.5, and now they're 2.5, so they're under 3, which makes it pretty good for them. Once they go above 3, I think that's where you draw the line and you have to take Missouri with the points. So if it hits 3.5, then it may make a little sense. But that game is played in Nashville, which is not too terribly far from Columbia, Missouri. So there will be a pretty good contingent of Missouri Tiger fans there as I see it. Now, at 12:30 on Fox is going to be Brigham Young and Iowa State. I believe our friend Tim Brando may be making that call of the game, doing Fox Big. And it's Brigham Young traveling to Ames, Iowa. Somehow Brigham Young is ranked somewhere around that number 11 spot at 7-0, and I'm not really sure why. But I guess there's just no confidence in the grand scheme of things in the odds makers or in the Associated Press or the coaches poll. I'm not really sure what to make of it. Brigham Young opens up at -1.5, and now it's Iowa State -2.5, -3.5 at one place. So all the action is going on Iowa State at home, but Brigham Young is a very, very tough defensive squad. So I don't know if you've seen them play, but boy, those guys are good. They're really good. And that 7-0 is not a cheap 7-0 either. I mean, it's easy to say, well, they're saying 7-0. No, they're playing in a tough conference already. All right, moving on. It's Illinois traveling out to Seattle to play the Huskies. They're playing Wolf. Illinois, number 23, at Washington, a 12:30 game Pacific time on the Big Ten Network. And that one has Washington opening up at 4.5, and they're still at 4.5 across the board. So you get the true line in that game. So these are the ones that we really like because that means the bettors don't even know which way to go on this. And something tells me that Washington will probably win the game, and they'll probably cover. They'll probably win that game something to the tune of 26 or 27-21 or something like this. It'll be a very, very hard-fought game in Seattle. And Illinois actually plays pretty well on the road, too. So when you look at what they've done overall, I mean, look, they're 5-2 overall, and they've beaten some pretty good teams. And the losses they have were very tough losses. So I'm not thinking that Illinois is going to lose by that much. But then again, you never know which team's going to show up. And I know I say that a lot, but it's sort of like the game. Any game's pretty much in the Big 12 with Oklahoma State traveling to Lubbock to play Texas Tech. You got two teams going in exact opposite directions in this game. You say, well, the point spread is big. Yeah, you're right. The point spread is gigantic. But is this one of those tailor-made kind of a 35-0 game? The line, look, it could be 38-0. The line opens up at Texas Tech -36.5. It's up to 38.5 at all the casinos. This has the makings of a 38-0 kind of a game. But the question is, if the line drops, for example, at one of these online venues, which I will not name, the line's 37.5. Now that should be your first clue that final score should be right around 38-point differential. So, you know what? Sit back and get some popcorn and just watch the last couple of minutes of that game, because that's going to determine, in my opinion, whether they cover the spread or not. Because, again, it shouldn't be a game otherwise. It should be a complete blowout. I can't really see it being anything but that. And anybody that knows anything about college football knows that these two teams, again, they're going in opposite directions. But there should be no contest in that whatsoever. It's just whether they'll cover the spread. And it might even show up on that one TV program for Bad Beats. It may even show up there. How about Texas traveling to Starkville to play Mississippi State and the Cowbells? Texas opens up at 8.5. The line is at 7 across the board, with the exception of one of the casinos has it at 6.5. We're going to call it 7. Can Texas cover the 7 with a defensive-minded Miss State team? Well, Texas plays a defensive game, But the bigger question is Texas going to try to run it up on a conference foe? Because let's face it, Texas desperately needs this win to stay in the picture for the college football playoff. They're sitting at 5-2 and 2-1 in the SEC. That 6-2 and 3-1 makes it a lot better for them. Whereas Mississippi State is playing for their bowl game lives right now at 4-3. So Mississippi State's going to keep this game close. And I happen to believe that Mississippi State, with this 7, would probably be a pretty solid pick in the grand scheme of things. Now, here's a conundrum. When you look at Oregon and you look at Wisconsin, you say, Wisconsin, are they really that bad? It's hard to say because Wisconsin, it seems like the program went downhill. Once Barry Alvarez was gone as the athletic director, of course, the former coach, it just seems like the wheels completely came off. Now, Wisconsin travels to Oregon in what seems to be a bettor's trap game. Line opens up at 33.5, and it sits at 33.5 right now. Got to tell you, folks, that 33.5 is looking really good because I'm looking at a game that could be something like 41-7 or something like that, or 41-10. I'm thinking Wisconsin's going to cover that game. Nobody seemingly wants to touch that game, and that's for good reason. That's a 4 p.m. Pacific time game on Fox Sports 1. Now, Stanford will travel to Miami in a conference game over in the ACC. Stanford and Miami are a couple of quality teams, but then again, Miami is a very good squad. They should really make an example out of Stanford here. They open up at 31.5. The line actually dropped to 29.5 at one venue, but the casinos have it at 30.5. We'll call it 30.5. And Miami should cover because, let's face it, their ranking from a following standpoint, they're 1-1 in the ACC, 5-1 overall. They're ranked number 9. They need to climb that ladder a little bit. I look for Miami to cover in that one. Texas A&M travels to Death Valley in Baton Rouge. And boy, that ought to be a fun game. Again, grab some popcorn and watch that game. LSU is going to already be bent out of shape. Look for LSU to win this game. I think they're going to win the game outright. Knock A&M from the unranked. It was LSU opens up -4.5, and they're up to +2.5. There's a 6-point swing in Texas A&M's favor in this one. I'll take the 2.5 all day and twice on Saturday against Texas A&M with the LSU Bengal Tigers at home. Boy, that'll be a fun one to watch. That's 4:30 Pacific time on ABC. Boston College, Louisville, we don't want to talk about that one. How about Houston and Arizona State? A couple of teams battling it out in the Big 12. This will be our last game for today. Houston travels to Tempe, and the game opens up at Arizona State -7. It's 7.5 across the board. So people are saying, the bettors are saying, you know what, we think Arizona State's going to win. So now you got to lay the extra half a point. And I'm inclined to take that extra half a point with Houston. But if it was 7, I would not take Houston. 7.5, I would take Houston. Again, the true line, folks, in case you don't know, is the opening line from the odds makers. And the bettors have moved the line up a half a point. And that's across the board everywhere, whether it's the online betting venue or at the casinos. It doesn't matter whether you're at a local casino or the big casino. Either way, the line is sitting at 7.5 right now for a very good reason. Arizona State is a good squad. Houston is a good squad as well. Arizona State needs to pull even overall and make it 6-2, just like Houston 6-2. Both teams are 3-1 in the Big 12. Now that game, again, is going to be in a nice, warm Tempe, Arizona. Over and under at 47.5. I would look for an unders and Houston in that one. Well, that's going to do it for today's show. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, and Sal the bookmaker showing up for that last segment. We'll see you here in about 23 hours on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Owning great property is almost impossible these days. At least, that's what people keep saying. They don't know about National Premier Properties. Do you have $350 or a credit card? You can own a great piece of property in a resort community. National Premier Properties has over 51 years of experience helping people just like you purchase amazing properties across the U.S. and in Mexico, Canada, the Bahamas. It takes less than 5 minutes to turn your dream into reality. Visit nationalpremierproperties.com and make it happen now.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.